cell structure.
No mouthing, ASL structure. Okay?
Well, hello everyone, and I just want to tell you about how 2 summers ago I went to Thailand with my father. And this is the first time I'd ever gone on a vacation with my father, so I wasn't really sure how I was going to be spending that much time with him. And if you've ever flown somewhere as far east as Asia, anywhere in it, you know that that alone is like a day's trip. I think the plane ride in total was like 20 hours with layovers included. And we left out of O'Hare. From there we went to, I believe it was New York. And then from New York we went to South Korea. And in South Korea, that's where the airport just kind of became like, it felt like a little Las Vegas mall. There was just flashing lights everywhere, like places you could gamble, and places, obviously there was like bars and stuff like that. But they also had the fanciest smoking room I'd ever seen before. Which there was like leather seats, you'd go in there, and the place was just filled with smoke. As you'd expect at a smoking room. But you can buy a bunch of cigarettes for really cheap. So of course you buy a lot of cigarettes, and then you smoke them all because you have a 4-hour layover. And so I kind of got used to it. And then in Thailand we had to stop somewhere. We flew to Thailand, and then there was a very long layover until we flew to the next part of Thailand. And I was expecting the Korean smoke room to be the same as the Thailand smoke room, which was pretty wrong. The Thailand smoke room was more like a closet, and about a 5x5 space, just packed with about 30 people. And so as you're ashing over someone's hand. And that's just a good way to begin the trip. Now from there, things were much different. Thailand is a beautiful country. It's got just everything. Trees, forests, mountains, winding rivers. And you have to drive through all of it to get to any small village, anywhere you would stay. And we get there, we land, and we didn't really have a plan. All my dad knew was where the tourist locations were, and then that's what he wanted to avoid. So we rented a car and just started driving through the mountains until we found some really small village. This was about 5 hours, 6 hours of driving through the road that has the most amounts of turns in the world. It's about 400 turns in like a 20-mile stretch. So instead of taking 5 minutes to drive through it, it takes about 2 hours. Because you can't go very fast or you will just go off a cliff. Anyway, after driving on this road, we got to a small village, found a hotel. The hotel was on the beachfront, and the equivalent was $2 US for like 3 nights there. Which was...
How much was it? I'm sorry.
$2 US? For 3 nights, and so it was just super cheap. And going there with like $50 in your pocket meant you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. So we parked the car, got into our hotel room, unpacked like the backpack we each had, and then figured out what we wanted to do. And over on the side there was a mountain. Just like a big mountain there, and a giant 200-foot tall Buddha statue, it looked like. And I decided that my goal was going to be to get to that statue. And this was pretty far away, just the mountain itself. And then once you got there, you had to climb up it. So I walked around the city, the town, until I found a place that you could rent a bike, which there were bike rentals everywhere. Motorbikes and regular bikes. So I grabbed this really old, just rusted Schwinn, paid my 50 cents for the day, and then took it onto the dirt road and started going. And at first it was fine until I realized that this mountain was much further away than I had anticipated it being. I started riding. About an hour in, I finally begun to get a little close to it. And then from there was the beginning of the mountain, these old steps, kind of covered in moss. And the front of the steps were kind of covered with branches, as if nobody was using them anymore. Which isn't easy to carry your bike up these steps then, because there's branches hitting you. And then I started climbing up them, and eventually there was just a road. And the road just kind of started out of nowhere. It didn't go any further than the steps, but that's where it began. I hopped back on the bike and started riding up this road, which just went steeper and steeper until it gets to the base of this 200-foot tall Buddha statue. And this took about another hour just to get from the steps to the statue. And that was the first time that I really looked back and realized how far I had come. Because there it felt like you could just see everything. And it was a clear day, so the mountains that were even further away, like it felt like you could see the airport that we originally flew from, and the beginning of the road where we rented the car. And I just always remember looking over there and seeing how much there was to see and how alone I was up there. And it was really just a beautiful thing. And then this is changing to a completely different thing. This is in southern Illinois. This is a vacation I went on with my mom, dad, and sister. We were all driving down to go have a family reunion like we do every 2 years. And all of my family is from like rural parts of Iowa, Illinois, Idaho. I guess all of Idaho is rural, really, but you know, so we'd all gather, and it always would be in where someone lives, and it's usually towns of like 50 people. And we went to a cemetery. My dad and I, with my sister, the three of us, because he loves seeing these old cemeteries where the gravestones are kind of, you can't read them anymore. They look like they were there from the Civil War. Because there's this like spooky, kind of scary feel that they have. And we were walking around, and he was of course being like, "Oh, be careful, the boogeyman might get you," which is terrifying when you're 10 years old, because the boogeyman is very real at that age. And that's when my mom jumped out from behind the gravestone. I guess they had planned it to scare us. Which worked very well. My sister and I were just running. And it took a while for us to realize that, oh, it was just our mother trying to scare us.
Done? Good?